balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, I have to admit, and I'm really, I don't know if this was necessarily expected or not, but I got to tell you, Trump is not pulling any punches this time around. He really isn't. He is going 100% full bore. And this is probably because of the fact that he's got nothing to lose. Let's face it. This is his second term in office. He's not necessarily what would be called a lame duck president, per se, but because the term lame duck really isn't all that flattering. But he's definitely doing what he said he was going to do. He's come in and he is slamming all kinds of different things going on. And the left, like I've been saying the last couple of shows, the left really has no idea, none whatsoever, on what to do. They're lost, completely lost in terms of what's going on. And it's so glorious to watch because they just, these people are like trying to find things. They're digging in all kinds of different places and they can't seem to keep up with everything that is going on and everything that is happening. Anyway, let me wish a happy Australia Day because it is the 26th of January down there. But happy Australia Day to Becky and our Australian contingent that's down there. So there you go. Happy Australian Day. Australia Day. Not Australian, Australia. Anyway, I'm American. I screw things up all the time. All right. Let's go ahead and get things started. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Definitely Not Karen. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats, and if you're wearing one. And make sure to place your hand over your heart and join in with Definitely Not Karen in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And of course, I thank you, Definitely Not Karen, for sending that in. Please do me a favor. If you would like to hear your rendition, version, style of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself doing it in your style and take that file, whatever is generated, whether it's audio or video, and send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation here on the program. Tonight's headline sponsor, of course, is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding, and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, all you need to do is head off to constitution.americanperspective.online, and that'll drop you right to the page where you can pick one of these fabulous things up. Check this out. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. And check out this binding. No cheap glue here, folks. It is stitched all the way through the leather to the backside. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and workmanship defects, such that you can either you can send it back to the manufacturer if something goes wrong, and they will either they will either fix it or replace it for free. Oh my gosh, I'm off kilter already. It's buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has verified that the information inside can help you attain your civics badge in Scouts. Probably could also get you to pass your civics test as well. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution and all of their wonderful books. They've got a lot of things there. A lot of things there, I'm telling you. And they keep adding stuff too, by the way. But anyway, go and check them out today. And of course, I appreciate the Institute on the Constitution for allowing me to be an affiliate of theirs. All right. So there's two. Like I said last night, that the fire hose is opened and we are drinking the news media. And of course, the rest of us, we are just drinking from the fire hose. Trump has not slowed down. And I'll be honest with you, he spent time in Vegas today. I haven't seen or been paying attention to that. Unfortunately, I had other things going on, but I'm hearing from people that he was fantastic, which kind of juxtaposes when you look at Trump at 78, or I think he's 78, Biden at 80. And take a look at the both of them. You know, Biden barely could get anything going as far as being able to like follow the teleprompter and things like that. He would screw up, he'd trip, he'd fall, he'd do all kinds of things. He'd forget where he was, he'd fall asleep. He'd just all kinds of stuff going on. But anyway, yeah, it's just amazing to see the difference between a well put together president and definitely one who is more cognizant and available and awake. In fact, I've got a couple things here with regards to that. The first one that I get to, first article that I get to will kind of demonstrate that people, the Americans, are amazed. They like it. They like it. They love it. They want more of it. Anyway, but before I do that, let's get to the first things first. Tonight, I am drinking out of my Woodford Reserve bottle, as you can see there on the page, and I am drinking out of my Trump 2024 glass. I love that flag with the red band saying Trump 2024 right there. There it is. So let's go ahead and requisite first sip. And of course, like 3 Chevy says, it takes stones to drink with whiskey. I know some of you might be new to the program who are like sitting here going, who is this whiskey character? Well, that's me. Why do you think I call all my Whiskey Warrior P1s, the people that have been with me since the beginning and who come every single episode, rain or shine? Or, well, with the exception of power outages and internet outages. But anyway, yeah, I love all of those folks, everybody who is out there. It really doesn't take much to be a Whiskey Warrior P1. I got to be honest with you. You just got to come here, interact with the chat, get in, and make sure that you interact with me. Interact with me over social media, or send me stuff, to my email address, fans at AmericanPerspective.online. So that's all it takes. And you can be a Whiskey Warrior P1 as well. All right. Unfortunately, there's no question of the week tonight because nobody sent one in. Speaking of sending stuff in, so that's all right. We'll just continue without it. All right, first up here, folks. Let's go ahead and get our first segment out of the way, which of course is On This Day in American History. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full. Look at the thickness of this book. It's like I don't want to call it a Bible, but that's pretty much close to what it is for America. But anyway, it's chock full of all kinds of information. And, yeah, so there you go. Yeah. A couple of my longtime Whiskey Warriors are calling out, wait, hold up. We got to interact now. Of course, what they don't tell you in the backside is I get stuff from 3 Chevy all the time. He sends me all kinds of links and pictures and funny stuff and everything. So he's lying. Anyway, let's get back onto the program. All right. Today is July 25th. And July 25th, we have Around the World in 72 days. Wait, what? I thought it was 80 days. Well, let's find out. In 1873, the French novelist Jules Verne published Around the World in 80 Days, in which an Englishman, Phileas Fogg, wins a bet that he can circle the world in 80 days. 16 years later, intrepid New York World reporter Nellie Bly decided to beat Fogg's fictional trip, something never done before. On November 14th, 1889, carrying a crocodile gripsack, she boarded the Augusta Victoria and steamed across the Atlantic. Reaching England, she made a quick detour to France to meet Verne himself. Good luck, Nellie Bly, he toasted her. Then it was on by mail train to Brindisi, Italy, where she sent a hurried cable to her editors before sailing for the Suez Canal. The World published daily reports on its feminine Phileas Fogg's progress. Can Jules Verne's great dream be reduced to actual fact? It asked. The whole country followed the attempt to girdle the spinning globe. Nellie raced on. On the boat to Egypt, 2 men proposed marriage. In Ceylon, she impatiently waited 5 days for a ship. In Singapore, she bought a monkey. En route to Hong Kong, a monsoon filled passengers' cabins with water. Another storm hit as she steamed across the Pacific. The ship's crew posted a sign, "For Nellie Bly, we'll win or die." Nearing San Francisco, she heard rumors of a smallpox quarantine on board ship. She jumped on a tugboat and headed for land. Blizzards had stranded locomotives in the mountains, so she hopped on a train taking a southern route and dashed across the continent. On January 25th, 1890, cannons boomed and crowds cheered as Nellie arrived in Jersey City. She looked at her watch. 72 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes. She'd beaten Phileas Fogg by a week. Father Time outdone the world trumpeted. Around the globe, Nellie Bly became a symbol of the American can-do spirit. That is today's On This Day in American History. That's American spirit, can-do attitude, and the type of attitude and can-do attitude, spirit, in entrepreneurial spirit, everything that wraps up America in a nutshell is always about taking the impossible or the thought to be impossible and making it possible. You think about all the things that America has done in our history, gone to the moon, created skyscrapers, created feats of construction such as Hoover Dam, created things like the Panama Canal and other canals up in the Northeast, conquering the entire world. In other words, saving the entire world twice, not once, but twice. Putting so much fear into enemies that the admirals of their navy say things like, "We have awoken the sleeping giant," when you did a sneak attack on us on Pearl Harbor. You know, one thing that America has never, ever not had is the indomitable spirit. Americans have been known throughout the world and throughout history as the can-do, never-quit attitude people. We are from many different cultures, many different places. We've bonded together in what many said in the beginning that the American experiment wouldn't survive. And here we are almost 250 years later, still kicking. And we are now back to that, thanks to the fact of all of you who voted for a responsive president, one who is going to work on righting the ship for America and for our posterity. Speaking of which, he's not disappointing us. Not disappointing us at all. In fact, here in the Daily Caller, and this is kind of amazing, actually, because of the fact that it's CNN that's saying this. CNN's Harry Enton says, "This is big league. Americans like what they're seeing in Donald Trump's second term so far." So take a listen to Harry as he kind of talks a little bit about this.
Look, the American people really like what they're seeing, at least compared to where Donald Trump started 8 years ago, right? All right, this is Donald Trump's net approval rating. This is Reuters Ipsos. It's among adults. It was taken the first few days of this administration. Look here. Back in January 2017, Donald Trump became the first president in history to start his presidency with a net negative approval rating. Look at where we are now in January 2025. Considerably better at plus 6 points. That's up 9 points. To borrow a Donald Trump phrase, this is big league. This is a sign that the American people, at least initially, like what they're seeing. And so you see right here, more Americans approve of Donald Trump's job than disapprove. And that is very much unlike what we saw 8 years ago.
So compare the rating now to the entire first term.
Yeah. So it's not just that he's doing better than where he was doing 8 years ago. It's that he's doing better than he ever did during his entire first administration. So I again look.
He never was over +3.
He was never over +3. The highest rating his highest ever net approval rating was +3 in March of.
Your choice of photo is quite.
He likes
amazing.
what he's seeing. He's smirking at the American media.
He just doesn't like you.
Maybe not. Although he should like these numbers and the way I'm presenting them. You look at January 2025. Look at that again. You get +6. So Donald Trump isn't just in a better position than he was 8 years ago at this point. He's in a better position than he was at any point during his entire first term. Things have very much turned around. This is a very different Donald Trump. He's leading a very different administration in the way he's attacking things. And the American public is very much more in line with him than they were at any point during his entire first term.
Well, I would say, correction, this is not a very different Donald Trump. This is a very different Donald Trump as being viewed by voters in this
In the way he's going about things with Susan Wiles leading things. I think he is, going at things in a much less disorganized fashion, much more organized.
Take me back in history.
Take you back in history. So it was so interesting to me that Donald Trump's first net approval rating of his second term is higher than his entire first term. And I was interested, has that ever happened? Has the second term net approval rating in the first month, have you ever had a higher rating than any net approval rating during the entire first term? Donald Trump is the only...
I have a hard time believing this.
This is 100% true. I went back. I love spreadsheets. Donald Trump's is the first guy ever whose net approval rating in the first month of his second term is higher than any rating that he had as an entire first term, Kate Baldwin. This is true. I don't make stuff up. The numbers are the numbers.
I believe you in nothing except when you have it in the wall, and then I believe everything you say.
That's exactly right.
Which is why...
Okay, so first of all, I take exception, by the way, to what's her name? Kate Ball, I think. Let's see. What is this? Where is this? Where does she say this? Yeah. Anyway, I take exception to the idea that that this is like this major difference because Donald Trump is not doing what he's, from his first term to his second. The exception that I have is the fact that she's making it sound like this is not the same, or this is the same Donald Trump. This isn't the same Donald Trump. I'm sorry. It can't be. It cannot be the same Donald Trump from his last term. Because his last term, to be honest, he had a bit of a learning curve. And he started listening, in my opinion, to people who were a part of the insiders, who were a part of the shall we say, the swamp. And he got in trouble for it. I mean, he got blasted for it. And so, honestly, I honestly don't think that this is the same Donald Trump. This is a Donald Trump that learned from his first term, that learned about things that he should have tried to prevent. But again, he listened to certain people, even though he probably felt like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't listen to these people. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and listen to them anyway. And he is definitely not the same. In my opinion, he is not the same Donald Trump necessarily. He's figured out the game now. He's got your numbers, folks. Yep. And he's not playing around anymore. And people are loving it. That's what this is telling you. Now, I expect that if he keeps on this path, that the American people, provided that things, of course, turn out the way that we expect them to, the American people are going to be very responsive over this, as they should be. They should be very responsive. One of the things, of course, that he is really pushing hard on is the immigration pieces, the immigration stuff. And a lot of the left is just freaking melting down over all of the immigration stuff. Well, in fact, they melted down so bad, as I've already told you, that a Seattle judge, which if you've ever seen a picture of this moron, I mean, this guy here, let me just show you. This is the guy that looks like that this is the judge. He's an 83-year-old judge. Take a closer look at him. Let's blow him up a little bit. Take a look at this guy. He even kind of looks like an idiot. I mean, I know he's a judge. I get it. You kind of have respect for the seat. But let's be honest. He's trying to make this unconstitutional, and it's not unconstitutional the way that Trump phrased it. You got to read the phrasing. You've got to read the phraseology and how he puts what he is doing. It is not unconstitutional. Again, it brings it back to the original. And I talked about this last night extensively. It gets back to the original debates. It gets back to the original setups and so on and so forth for it. Well, he and Donald Trump and his administration, and admittedly Pat Bondi, what's her name? Is it Pat Bondi? Hang on. I'm like, anyway, I don't think it's in here. But Trump's administration, Department of Justice, is planning on taking the fight on the birthright citizenship all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. Don't expect it. It's not unexpected at all. Like I said, he's second term, doesn't care. It's Pat Bondi. Thank you. My Rumbler 3 Chevy pulls that out. Pat Bondi. Anyway, he is planning on taking the fight to SCOTUS. And, So, Department of Justice spokesperson said, the Department of Justice will vigorously defend President Trump's EO, executive order, which correctly interprets the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, or of the Constitution. We look forward to presenting a full merits argument to the court and to the American people who are desperate to see our nation's laws enforced. The DOJ is also, I guess I'm even my rumblers are correcting each other. It's Pam Bondi. Anyway, the DOJ is confident that they will ultimately prevail in court. So here's the thing, and again, I'm pointing this out. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was passed prior to the 14th Amendment being brought to the floor, and the 14th Amendment, of course, was patterned after, or at least the first phrases of it, were patterned after the 1866 Civil Rights Act. The 1866 Civil Rights Act says, all persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed, are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. Okay? Now, the thing about it is that, again, even though this has already been to SCOTUS, and many people believe that this has already been handled, there's only one problem. The one particular case that they always point to, and I misquoted it last night in last night's show, it's Wong Kim Ark versus the U.S., and it's the one case that everybody points to that basically says, well, this has already been settled because Wong Kim Ark's parents were of Chinese origin. But there's one little hiccup that nobody seems to pay attention to, and that is the fact that they had legal permanent resident status here in the United States at the time. And so technically, if you really want to read the laws and get into the little nuances and things like that, technically, they were legal permanent residents here in the United States. And so his status being born here doesn't fall within the idea of the foreigner and alien situation, like what is when you have illegals coming across our border and dropping a child just to stay here. So, yes, I understand this is kind of like splitting hairs, but we almost have to do this because of the fact that we're dealing with people who are coming across our border, whether it's legal or illegal. And actually, even there's numbers that talk about this in terms of the, quote, birth tourism industry in the United States, that foreign nationals are routinely traveling to the country with the idea of being able to get American citizenship with their newborn children because they just happen to have them born here. Now, the Center for Immigration Studies, which is a think tank advocating for reducing immigration, estimated in 2019 that there are about 72,000 births annually to tourists and individuals on what are considered guest worker, student, or other long-term visas. And about 250,000 babies were born to illegal immigrants in 2016, according to Pew Research. It's these people, these individuals that Donald Trump has, I don't want to use the term targeted, but has crafted his EO specifically for. And here, according to Pew Research also, in 2022, approximately 1.3 million adults born to illegal immigrants in the U.S. lived in a household with someone unlawfully residing in this country back in 2022. Illegal immigrants living in the U.S. had around 4.4 million U.S.-born minor children living in their households that year. It's unclear how many, quote, anchor babies, unquote, as they are known colloquially, were born each year in the U.S. during the Biden administration. Folks, I understand. And again, that Wong Kim Ark case went through a slew of going all the way back through like English common law and so on and so forth in order to determine what, if any, was actually being applied at the time the 14th Amendment was proposed, then approved by Congress, and of course ratified by the states shortly thereafter. And I've shown you a couple of excerpts from the debates where they were talking about the fact that, hey, this literally does not include foreigners, aliens, people who are here on ambassadorships. They basically literally were attempting, in terms of the what would be considered the proper interpretation when looking at the context of this, they were literally saying, you can't come here, have a baby, and then be expected to stay because that baby has turned into an American citizen. That was the whole point. I advocate that was the whole point of the clause and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And this is the key point that we are discussing and talking about here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this SCOTUS, this particular SCOTUS, is potentially going to take this. Will they take it up? Number one. And number two, will they issue a narrow decision that will basically shore up what I am telling you? Or will they take it the opposite direction and say, actually, we're just going to say that everybody who is born here is an American citizen? I'm telling you, folks, that's going to be a huge problem. Now, granted, we have for over 100 years sort of accepted that definition of the situation. We've accepted that definition. But again, the Wong Kim Ark case is a yes, it dealt with a American born or essentially the child of two Chinese nationals born here on U.S. soil, which most people would think that qualifies like when an illegal alien comes across. However, those two Chinese nationals had permanent residency status, which changes the argument just slightly, but it does change the argument. And so again, this is going to be very interesting to see where things go with all of this. But they plan on taking it all the way to SCOTUS, and I think that was Trump's plan from the beginning. To be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me any for him to say, "Hey, I'm expecting this," and he should expect this. Well, speaking of Trump, he went and he visited L.A. yesterday. And he went and met with Mayor Karen Bass. Now, what's interesting about his trip is that Gavin Newsom met him at the airport, but Gavin Newsom did not come with him to this wildfire briefing that they had. He basically stopped and spoke to Trump on the tarmac at the airport, and then apparently had some previous engagement that he had to go run off to. He said hello to Melania as well, because Melania was with him, was with the president. But it's kind of interesting because as they were sitting there doing the briefing, a lot of things happened. And well, here's a short video about it. And let's just take a listen. This is, by the way, this is in the New York Post for this. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this.
To be safe.
Hold on. Let me back this up.
Everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important thing is
a
for
long
people
time.
to be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. The people are all over the place. They're standing, and I say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit. And the permit's going to take them, everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
So, yeah. So he apparently was, of course, on fire, ripping her for it and tangling with her. Now, one thing that one person did observe was the fact that Trump actually didn't turn to her and ask, why were you in Africa? And what were you doing in Africa when you should have been here handling the crisis? Which, of course, the video that was following this that I cut off was videotaped about it. But anyway, yeah, she, Karen Bass is just, again, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, hair gel himself, probably has so much petroleum in his hair that one of my more astute Whiskey Warrior P1s on Rumble says Gavin was afraid that his hair might catch on fire, which it probably would have. He uses so much oil product in that. He reminds me of the 1950s when they used to, grease up their hair and put it in a DA. For those of you that don't know, the DA is a duck's ass. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so Donald Trump, of course, was asking legitimate questions. He's asking things like, hey, when can these people go back in? Okay. And start looking at at the damage and assessing the damage. And then he continued on and he actually tossed it out to her where he's like, he said, you have emergency powers, just like also, Trump said to Bass. And Bass, of course, said, I did exercise them. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, that's not what she just said. She just said it would take a week to get a permit. Whatever kind of permit. I mean, seriously, come on. A permit? You got to get a permit to go into your own home in America that's been burned out. You've got to get a permit to enter into that zone. Seriously. Anyway, Even a couple residents were pissed off. Like one resident said, "We can't even see our homes right now," a local woman shouted. When another resident shouted about that, Bass said, "You'll be able to go back soon. We think within a week." And that's when Trump, of course, said a week is actually a long time the way I look at it. Yeah. Trump said, "We're going to essentially waive all federal permits. I'm going to override the Coastal Commission. I'm not going to let them get away with their antics." So, yeah, he already promised that he's going to try to hasten rebuilding to make things go faster by waiving any federal permits, and that he would put pressure on California officials to do the same. The president, rightly so, blamed Democrats, including those present, for causing the crisis by failing to clear parched vegetation, inadequately supplying water to the area, allowing the fire hydrants to run dry, and creating a situation where many fire insurance providers pulled out of the region last year. And all of this, again, Donald Trump is 100% correct on. 100% correct on. Now you can see here, if you're watching on Rumble, which I encourage you, if you're doing the audio portion of the program, I encourage you to go and check out rumble.com and American Perspective channel. You can go and check out all the videos. But Donald Trump toured the devastation by air. Yeah, he ripped onto it and ripped into them. Now, Trump also said that he would be mandating that the water be allowed to flow from Northern California to the Los Angeles area. Now, okay, so apparently the reason why there wasn't enough water is because of the fact that the California environmental people put a kibosh on sending water down into the LA area because of the fact of this small fish known as the smelt. Now, the smelt, apparently, it's not even on the endangered species list. It just happens to be locally, as far as they're concerned, locally dying off, but smelt shows up everywhere else. And, yeah. So, Trump said that he would be signing an executive order to open up the pumps and valves in the north. We want to get that water pouring down here as quickly as possible to let hundreds of millions of gallons of water flow down into Southern California. And he said, "I tell you who does like it is the fire department. I really strongly recommended this 7 years ago, and I think I'm just going to do it." He added, you have so much water. Use it and be happy about it. Let's never mind the fact that there was a bill that was passed to build and construct reservoirs designed specifically for this purpose, and none of them ever got built. So now, few of the Democratic officials that were down there directly challenged Trump, except for Bass and Representative Brad Sherman, who urged Trump not to withhold funds over a state voting policy, which, by the way, was he was attempting to use these kinds of things to get voter ID passed in California because they currently don't have it. But also he blasted Democrats again for the lack of fire insurance, saying that he was not a fan of insurers, but that if you lost your insurance company 6 months ago because the state wouldn't give them what they had to have, people that think like you made it so impossible. So, and Trump told Sherman. At another point, Trump also ripped former President Joe Biden, telling Representative Judy Chu, who implored him to remember the people in Altadena and Pasadena, that this took place during the life of another president, not him, but that he's going to be the president that's going to help you fix it, because he would not have been able, meaning Biden would not have been able to help you fix it. Apparently, Biden, who is 82, is vacationing at a billionaire's ranch in nearby Santa Ynez. Or Inez. So anyway, the main reasons for this was because of a mismanagement of water, a mismanagement of forest land, a mismanagement of funding. They diverted funding from the fire departments. They took a lot of the fire department's equipment and sent it over to Ukraine and things like that. So, yeah, it's just this whole thing. Now, granted, keep in mind, we still, as far as we know, we still don't know about, and there's Gavin Newsom meeting him on the tarmac, but we still don't know realistically who started or what started these fires. But just like all of the wildfires that have been happening here in the Northwest and up in Canada for decades, it all comes down to proper forest management. If you clear out the dead, dry underbrush and get it cleared, the forest itself is going to be healthier and much more resilient to wildfires than what it is today. And this is part of the problem, is that the environmentalists have gone so far with their desire to take things back to what they believe is the proper positioning for the forest. You can't do that anymore, especially not with man. And in cases like this, where you have large areas of human beings that are adjacent to, and let's be honest, encroaching upon some wild areas where things are very, very dry, and especially in a place like California where they get the Santa Ana winds, which are like 100-mile-an-hour winds consistently every single year. This same condition happens. And it just so happens that in this particular case, the winds were going the correct direction, and then the fires started, and there was nothing to stop them. There was no planning in terms of fire breaks or any of these kinds of things. So, yeah. Anyway, it's a sad situation, I know, but there you go. I mean, that's what he did. He went out there and he basically said, we're gonna clean this up. Well, that kind of irritated people. I can tell you on the social media, that irritated a few of those sycophantic leftist lunatic accounts that constantly post. I swear they get paid to do this stuff. That constantly post about, all of these things, and they were going crazy. They were like, hey, give Karen Bass a thumbs up or a heart or whatever it is that they do. I got tired of typing, you're a moron. That's it. That's the tweet today. In fact, I have it saved as part of my clipboard on my phone so that every time I see that, and I have nothing really to say about it other than the fact they literally are morons. Karen Bass, the leadership of California, all the way up to the governor of the state, have 100% accountability for this disaster. They set up essentially the perfect storm for all of this to happen. Anyway, well, the liberals are, of course, going nuts because of a update that occurred on the White House official website. I didn't hear about this until now. It's just, it's kind of amazing, though. I mean, I'm laughing. And the reason why I'm laughing, I'll be honest with you. The reason why I'm laughing is because of the fact that I do some web mastering. Obviously, I have my own websites and things of that nature. And so it's really funny to me that it was meant in an innocent fashion. Just the fact that it happened is kind of hilarious. Let me explain what happened here. So here in the Daily Fetched, the White House updated its official website. And when they updated their official website, what they did is they removed the Spanish variation of the website. Now, okay, you could sit here and say, well, wow, that's anti diversity, that's anti, whatever. But hey, let's face it, okay? Even though America does not have an official language, meaning a declaration that makes English the official language, it is relatively understood that if you come to America, you should be expected to speak English. All of the signs, especially traffic signs, are in English, so you should at least be able to read and understand a perfunctory level of English when you come here, okay? It's not like going up into Canada, into the eastern part of Canada, and being able to read and understand French, because that's the way Canada does things in, Montreal, Quebec, and all the way up, I think all the way up into Toronto, by the way. I could be wrong about Toronto. I don't recall right off the top of my head, but I know like Montreal and Quebec are all, they have a lot of French speaking individuals. But America's not like that. America, everybody speaks English. Now, we do have our dialects, of course. You have the Southern drawl. You have the Northeast, I don't know what you call it, but you have the Northeast brogue, I suppose, and it changes. And then, of course, you have the Midwest affects as well. But generally speaking, everybody speaks English, all right? Now, the White House decided to update the official website. They decided to take down the Spanish version. And when they did this, they went ahead and put up a button. And this button said two simple words: go home. Now, to somebody who doesn't understand the nomenclature that everybody generally uses in the website and webmaster world, when you say go home, that means go to the home page of the website. Yeah, here, you can take a look at this right here. There's what it looked like. It gave you a 404 message, page not found, and then it had a button that basically says, go home. Well, that, of course, melted down the left. And keep in mind, too, I'm just pointing this out, this is a totally innocent, this was non-intentional, all right? In webmaster speak, the home page is like the main welcome page. It's the first page that you hit when you go to somebody's website, all right? But it seemed kind of interesting that it was the whitehouse.gov/ES/ which is basically the Spanish version. Well, there was enough of an uproar that they eventually changed it to this. Oop, I gotta back off. They eventually changed it to this, which is a little more descriptive. Go to the home page rather than go home. But anyway, of course, the left has kind of gone nuts over this. In fact, so much that somebody who, I guess, calls themselves a doctor, she went ahead and posted this on TikTok.
The White House government website, the Spanish version, cannot be found anymore. And in this little box that takes you to the home page. The words that they chose to use are go home. The White
Go home. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It was a faux pas. I get it. It was a faux pas. It was bad. It was bad, but it's funny. But it's funny. It's just funny. And of course, some of the commenters on X were like, they called the wording devilish. And another one stated my jaw actually dropped. Like, oh my God. That is so, white supremacy and racist and, yeah, right. That's why I'm telling you, as an IT related individual who's been in IT for a while and doing this, that just go home that's website nomenclature for go to the front page. Oh, I thought you guys would get a kick out of that. That was kind of funny. I laughed at it, but anyway, they've corrected it now. So it says go to the home page. But of course, that's probably going to get something, somebody somewhere is going to pick up on that because again, like I said, the Daily Fetch saw it, but I don't, somebody somewhere is going to talk about it and be like, oh yeah, this is Trump is a racist. He's a misogynist racist. Anyway. All right. Well, we've got some new confirmations in Trump's cabinet. I already told you that Senator Marco Rubio got confirmed. He was the first one to get confirmed. He actually got confirmed on a bipartisan nature and was actually, that just kind of, he slid through so easy and so fast. It was barely a blip in the news cycle. Also, too, apparently, the Senate has confirmed the new CIA director, John Ratcliffe, in a bipartisan majority. The Senate voted 74-25 2 days ago on January 23rd to confirm the former intelligence director as the next head of the CIA. So he slid by without a problem. Well, then following after him, we ended up with, and by the way, all of these are in the Epic Times. Every single one of these little pieces and tidbits of information are in the show notes and in the Epic Times. But anyway, following shortly after that, Kristi Noem got confirmed as Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, of course, this allows her to carry out President Donald Trump's plan to secure the border. Now, we've already told you that Tom Homan is the bulldog, has already gone after and started the whole ICE deportation stuff. In fact, I saw an article, I didn't put it in the show notes because I'm unfortunately restricted in terms of the number of characters that I can use on a certain channel, YouTube, that keeps me from putting everything in on certain days when there's a lot to cover. But that being said, Tom Homan has already started the ICE deportations of the heinous criminals that are here in our country, much to the left's chagrin. But anyway, Kristi Noem now has been confirmed. She can start her work as the Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank goodness we got rid of Alejandro Mayorkas. But anyway, she was confirmed on the 25th in a 59-34 vote. So again, a little bit more of a majority there. Yeah, she just as a reminder to everybody, she was a 2-term Republican governor. She was known for her tough stance on illegal immigration. And she received little pushback during her appearance before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee on January 17th. So, and she has said then that border security must remain a top priority. As a nation, we have the right and responsibility to secure our borders against those who would do us harm. We must create a fair and lawful immigration system that is efficient and effective and reflects our values. She apparently, according to the writer, appeared confident during questioning and likely benefited from connections that she had made on Capitol Hill during her stint as a congresswoman from 2011 to 2019. So, yeah. And of course, she was introduced at her hearing by the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune. So that one went through fairly easily. But the next one, as expected, didn't go through cleanly. So we do have the Secretary of Defense as Pete Hegseth. But it was very close. In fact, it was so close that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, had his first official action as the President of the Senate to cast the tie-breaking vote. Now, the reason why they had to get to the tie-breaking vote is because a couple of the rhinos, identified rhinos in the Republican Party in the Senate, number one being Mitch McConnell, voted no. Lisa Murkowski, I think, was another one that went to vote no. So that one basically went to a 50-50 deadlocked vote. And so J.D. Vance, of course, came down to break the tie. Now, the major reason, of course, is all of this with regards to the fact that, Pete Hegseth has not been at all quiet about the idea of women serving in combat roles. And then, of course, there's also the allegations that he has been going and dealing with regards to sexual assault, financial mismanagement at his two veteran nonprofit organizations, to even alcoholism. Well, I mean, obviously, if I were up against the Senate, they'd probably call me an alcoholic because I drink every Wednesday and Saturday for you guys on the show. Anyway, I guess it's a good thing I'm not in front of the Senate. So anyway, that apparently is only the second time that a cabinet secretary confirmation has come down to a 50-50 vote. The first time was Betsy DeVos's confirmation for Secretary of Education at the start of the first Trump administration in 2017. So Murkowski and Collins broke ranks with the Republicans to oppose Hegseth's confirmation. And they, of course, had signaled their opposition ahead of the hearing late on the 24th. McConnell issued a statement after his vote explaining why he opposed it. And he basically wrote, the most consequential cabinet official in any administration is the Secretary of Defense. In the face of the gravest threats to U.S. national security interests since World War II, this position is even more important today. Yeah, McConnell continued and said that the United States faces threats from multiple adversaries, including Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. He wrote in public comments and testimony before the Armed Services Committee, Mr. Hegseth did not reckon with this reality. Well, Trump, of course, celebrated Hegseth's confirmation, telling reporters in Los Angeles, "We're very happy about that, and we appreciate everyone's vote." When asked for a reaction to McConnell's no vote, Trump replied that he didn't know about that development. He just said, "I just heard that we won. Winning is what matters, right?" That statement right there, folks, is exactly the way Trump thinks. Trump, to him, the most important thing in life is winning. And he is not going to be on the short end of the stick. This is part of the reason why he keeps putting forth America first, America first. He's not going to take a bow to bend over for our adversaries, no matter what kind of adversary it is, whether it is an actual war adversary or just a adversary in terms of trade. He is not going to bend over for these people. That's why they don't like it. That's why they don't like him. He's very transactional, Donald Trump, at times, and one of his transactions, of course, is making sure that he wins. That's what he wants to do. So, anyway. So, in the minutes before the vote, Senator Jack Reed, a Democrat from Rhode Island, urged his colleagues to vote against the nomination, while Senator Roger Wicker, who is a Republican from Mississippi, made the opposite case, noting that Hegseth had grappled with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is true. So there you go. Anyway, he's in. He's in now. So we'll have to see what the heck happens with him after that. Now, I can tell you there are plenty of people that I consider to be fairly good quality sources who are saying that Pete Hegseth is a good quality man today. He may have gone through some rough patches, haven't we all? We've all gone through them. But he is a good man for today. So I will hold my tongue until, of course, such time as things go drastically wrong. But I can tell you, as a man, I am completely honest. Just like women in sports, women in combat, especially combat arms roles, okay, they are not exactly suited for those for the stress and the carrying out of the mission critical applications in that place. Oh, that's another thing, by the way, that Donald Trump is doing by getting rid of all of these things as far as things like the DEI and the affirmative action and all of those things. Donald Trump is bringing everything back to where we should be in America, which is essentially a merit-based system, not based off of whether or not you have a certain color of skin, a certain genitalia hanging between your legs, or any other immutable characteristic that you can go with. So anyway, so there you go. All right. Well, Donald Trump, of course, is going to, I'm just warning you ahead of time right now, I'm telling you that Donald Trump is going to be doing a lot of what would be considered controversial moves. His first one, of course, out the gate was the whole controversial ending of birthright citizenship. Whether or not I agree with it or not, and whether or not anybody else agrees with it or not, it will end up in front of the Supreme Court, and we will, hopefully, if they don't chicken out, get a definitive answer to that question. I'm not holding my breath because John Roberts is a snake when it comes to these kinds of issues. He does not want to have his legacy be the legacy of the one who rules on controversial subjects, which is part of the reason I'm kind of surprised that the Dobbs decision went the way that it did. But anyway, Donald Trump has done another controversial move. And this one is sort of interesting. It's controversial if you look at it from a specific angle. So here it is. Okay. Never mind the picture on the screen. That's just fraud chi. That's not anything about this. But Donald Trump went ahead and fired a bunch of independent inspector generals at federal agencies. Now, here's the thing. We're not exactly sure how many inspector generals or how many federal agencies that he fired. Because the reports have been different. We've had 12, we've had 17. There was even, I think, one that said something like 15 or 19. I can't recall. But the fact of the matter is that he fired some inspector generals. And inspector generals are supposed to be sort of like an independent counsel. They are supposed to be outside of the government. Now, here's the rub. They are part of the executive branch. And so Donald Trump, as has been confirmed by the Supreme Court, Donald Trump has the right to fire these people. Okay? But the left, and especially lunatic lawyers on the left, tried to say that Donald Trump didn't have the right to fire these people. In fact, they even went so far as to point this out on all kinds of social media outlets, so much so that Newsweek put together this article with regards to the legal analysts that are responding to Donald Trump firing many inspectors general. I don't know how it's supposed to go. But so inspector generals are independent officials within federal agencies who investigate claims of waste, fraud, and abuse of power. Okay. They conduct audits, evaluations, special reviews, and other responsibilities. The dismissals itself appear to be a violation of federal law. Now, here's the rub. It requires Congress to receive reasons for the termination of a Senate-confirmed inspector general 30 days in advance. However, as per usual, not all legal analysts actually agree that this is a violation. Now, I had to go and take a look at this because, again, that's the kind of person I am. Got to look at the details. And it states here, this is from Cornell Law School. And it basically states that here in the law that there shall be at the head of each office an inspector general who shall be appointed by the president by and with the advice and consent of the Senate without regard to political affiliation and solely on the basis of integrity and demonstrated ability in accounting, auditing, financial analysis, law, management, analysis, public administration, or investigations. They're supposed to report and be under the general supervision of the head of the establishment involved, or to such an extent, or to the extent such authority is delegated, the officer next in rank below the head, but shall not report to, nor shall be, or be subject to supervision by any other office or officer of such establishment. So in other words, they're separate, but they only report to the head of the agency. Now, here's the part where it gets kind of sticky. And this is especially it. An inspector general may be removed from office by the president. So that's the statement. That's the first statement of Section B. However, it says the next statement is that if an inspector general is removed from office or is transferred to another position or location within an establishment, meaning within that particular thing, the president shall communicate in writing the reasons for any such removal or transfer to both houses of Congress, not later than 30 days before removal or transfer. And this is the key that they're talking about. Now, legally, I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing that he could be in violation of in terms of the law is that he hasn't communicated in writing the such reason or the reason for such a removal or transfer. That's the only thing that he has violated in terms of this law. Because the first statement says it clearly. An inspector general may be removed from office by the president. That's it. There it is. So Trump was well within his right to remove this person or transfer them, whoever these people are. But he was supposed to communicate this no later than 30 days. So he, now some might say, well, that means that for the 30 days after the inauguration, they're safe. No, they're not. They're not safe. He just didn't follow through with the paperwork. And that essentially is what this one individual who is a law professor, his name is John Chun-Yu, Chun, C-H-O-O-N, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but John Yu, a law professor at the University of California, Berkeley, told Newsweek in an email on Saturday that President Trump is well within his power to remove members of the executive branch at will. In Celia Law versus the CFPB in 2020, the Supreme Court held that Congress could not protect officers of the United States from removal by the president. In that case, the court said that the only officers that Congress might be able to protect, and that's a key, might be able to protect, are those that are members of multi-body commissions, such as the FCC or the SEC. Then he also added that the inspectors general do not have that status. They are simply members of executive branch agencies. Even if Congress attempts to place conditions on their removal, these conditions are unconstitutional. Any inspector general that attempts to challenge their removal in court, they would still have to leave office and just sue for back pay, and they would be wasting their money in lawyers' fees. Now, Tristan Snell, who I'm going to tell you is like probably one of the most idiotic, self-proclaimed lawyers on X. He posted, Trump fires 17 inspectors general, all the internal government enforcement officials for every major government agency and department. This was illegal. Firing an IG requires 30 days notice to Congress. Congress must act to reinstate them now. No, buddy. He does not. Yes, the law says that he has to send a reason to them, but it doesn't say that he can't fire them. He can fire them at will, like John Yu pointed out ahead of time. Barbara McQuaid, who is another moron from MSNBC, she's a legal analyst, former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan under the Barack Obama administration. She pointed out that Trump has fired 12 inspectors general without providing the 30-day notice to Congress required by law. He is really pushing the legal limits of his power and daring Congress to stop him. I showed you the actual text of the law. It does not say that Congress is supposed to be a part of the freaking removal. All it says is that he was supposed to, so slap him on the wrist. He freaking didn't file the right paperwork in time. Oh my gosh, who the hell cares? There's probably not even a punishment listed for that. Come on. It says it right here. An inspector general may be removed from office by the president. It doesn't say an inspector general may be removed from the office by the president with the advice and consent of the Senate. Folks, he's only being blamed for not filing the paperwork properly. That's it. These people are gone. They're gone, and that's it. Bonnie points out, and this is true, do we know if he has sent the paperwork and someone is holding it up? It's possible. It's possible. So, yeah. Anyway, once again, Trump is going to push the envelope. He's going to push the boundaries. And now he doesn't have to be worried about whether or not he's going to get reelected again. Even though, by the way, there is supposedly a bill that is being proposed. Doubt it'll go anywhere. But a bill that's being proposed of allowing Donald Trump, and only Donald Trump, the way that it's written, to be able to run for a third term. But I don't know how that bill can be constitutional because of the amendment, of course, that limits him to 2 terms. So, yeah, that bill, fanciful as it is, would never make it past SCOTUS at all. It's like, there you go. So anyway. Oh my gosh, these people. I'm telling you. These people are just going to be nuts. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know about you, but I'm having a lot of fun with this because this is just going to be one right after the other that is, every time I turn around, there's something else that Donald Trump has either done or said that has caused the left to go nuts. Here, case in point. And case in point. I got enough time to talk about this. Here's Politico. Playbook. PM. Remember, the Politico Playbook is the leftists' manual for what to be pissed off about on all of the social media outlets. And believe me, they are. Here it is. Playbook PM. Trump mulls FEMA's future. So apparently, of course, he went and visited North Carolina and, as I just told you, down in L.A. And after landing in Asheville, he reiterated his frequent critique of the federal hurricane response. He said, FEMA has really let us down, let the country down, he said, per NPR's Asma Khalid and Deepa Shivaram. Yeah, you can just guess where they're from. Anyway, Trump indicated that he's examining the whole concept of the agency and suggested that states should handle their own emergency response operations instead of the federal government. Well, guess what, folks? Here we go again. Just going to point this out. Got this little book right here. If you'd have picked it up from me, you would have had it in your hand. You could have read it. It says the Constitution of the United States. That's right. Right here in the Constitution. If you look up Article 1, Section 8, which describes what Congress is supposed to be able to write legislation in regards to the government or the governing of this great nation from a federal standpoint. And I don't see in the 26 items that are listed there, that I don't see that handling emergencies and natural disasters is a part of the constitutional role of the federal government. Now, okay, I'm just going to point this out. Yes, it would be bad. However, considering of how mismanaged FEMA has been, especially in recent history, I could clearly see there would be an argument that could definitely be made for getting rid of the organization. And I, of course, being a part of the Constitution of the United States and being a strict constitutionalist, if it doesn't show up in Article 1, Section 8, as a responsibility of federal government, it falls to the 10th Amendment, and the 10th Amendment basically says if it ain't written in here, and it ain't specifically written in here as prohibited to the states, it's all on the states. There you go. I'm sorry. FEMA is not a constitutionally mandated responsibility of the federal government. Of course. Now, the other thing that I haven't quite checked out, but I believe, as I understand it, that FEMA was created by none other than Carter himself. Now, I could be wrong on that because I haven't looked it up directly. But again, we're back to the idea that Carter created yet another unconstitutional federal agency, if that is true. And if so, again, we're back to the whole point. Democrats ignore the Constitution. They ignore what the Constitution is supposed to do. So, yeah. Anyway. He is taking a look at all this. And it also, too, if you think about it, if you look at like the Florida response to the hurricanes, Florida itself and Ron DeSantis responded much, much better than the federal government ever has with their response to stuff. Yeah. So, again, I'm, yeah, I'm just, again, Donald Trump is going to be doing stuff that people are going to be like upset about, and it's just going to be glorious. The left it's just going to keep, they're going to have 4 years. If these people panic every single time Donald Trump creates or says or destroys something that truly is not constitutional or whatever, yeah, I would love, I'm going to love it. They're going to be on such a roller coaster ride. Their what is it, Prozac? I don't know. Their medicines are just going to be like, they're going to be on such a roller coaster. It's not even going to be funny. Well, it will be to me anyway, but there you go. All right, folks, we have a late submission for a question of the week. So let's go ahead and get that going. All right. Tonight's question of the week submitted by Mark over on Facebook. Not Mark Wetzel, the other Mark. I don't want to mincemeat your last name, sir, so I'm not going to try. But anyway, Mark writes, and this is actually a fairly straightforward question. Can they impeach Trump if he does not comply with sending money to Ukraine? He says, I saw this on a video on my Facebook feed. Okay. Considering the fact that they impeached Trump on a phone call, I wouldn't put it past anybody to impeach. Technically, they are supposed to impeach presidents for what are considered high crimes or misdemeanors. Now, there's no actual definition in the Constitution as to what a high crime or a misdemeanor actually is. You know, again, I love our founding fathers, but they really had a lot of faith in the human condition to be able to figure all of this stuff out. And I don't think that they had the thought process to believe or to foresee, envision, if you will, the depravity that the left has really decided to bow down to, because they actually also believed, as you've seen, if you ever watch, historical movies of the time and things like that, there were a lot of rules, even in war, that people were, that were accepted on both sides. For an example, generally speaking, if you captured like a mail carrier, okay, that a mail carrier, you basically couldn't hold that mail carrier, or especially if they were carrying orders for the other side. You weren't supposed to punish that individual for carrying those. Things like holding up a white flag and offering up a treaty or a truce when it came to negotiations, a lot of that was done in the old days. And so, it's one of those things where I don't think that the founding fathers really envisioned having to put this much detail into stuff 200 years later because some moron decided to say, oh, Donald Trump, he said something like, get me some evidence. And that's a quid pro quo. Give me some evidence on, a crime that has been committed in your country. And that's a quid pro quo. When, Biden was on tape literally admitting to the fact that, hey, if you don't fire somebody within your organization, you're not going to get your $1 billion. I'm going to climb on that plane and fly off, which actually is a actual quid pro quo. So, yeah. So anyway, it's again, I'm not going to put it past him for doing this. I think it's stupid. The thing about impeachment was it was supposed to be reserved for, again, the most gravest of situations, to get rid of somebody. And yeah, well, the good news is at least for the first 2 years, we have a majority in both houses. So I highly doubt anything will actually happen, in terms of, impeachment. So I don't think we really have to necessarily worry about that. But if we don't win in 2026 and we don't keep a majority in the House, as slim as it is, or increase our majority, then yeah, 2 years as Donald Trump leaves, don't be surprised if you see crap like that happen. Or it could end up like it did the first time, which is impeachment happens, the Senate looks at him and laughs and says, yeah, that ain't gonna happen either. Removal ain't gonna happen. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. All you have to do is sign up and sign in. And once you sign in, go and make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to be sure that you get notified every time I go live. Also, too, before you take off, don't forget to hit those likes and thumbs up buttons across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your weekend. I hope you enjoy it. Like I said, we'll see you on Monday. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.